Hello there, and welcome back to the Squirrel Heed YouTube channel, and welcome to the rest of my Premier League predictions for the first week in the Premier League. So glad to have it back. I hope you guys are ready for this Premier League season, and as happy as I am to see it back as well. Now, the first game coming up in this Premier League season is 12:30 on Saturday. Hull versus Leicester. Now, I'm not predicting great things for Hull, and I don't think anybody is. But, I mean, come on. If they'd have managed to at least keep Steve Bruce, give him a little bit of, give him at least some of that TV money that they will have at least inherited from coming up to the Championship. What the fuck, Hull? What the fuck, Hull? Seriously, what's going on? Genuinely. You see lots of reports that they're trying to sell the club and they're trying to do this, that and the other, and then Steve Bruce ups and quits during the whole England manager situation. Everyone's thinking he quit to go and be England manager, and then, Sam Allardyce got the job, and then it all comes out that you've got 13 fit players, so you've got 11 on the pitch and 2 to choose from if someone gets injured. You got a ton of injuries and stuff like that as well, so I mean, and no new players have come in. God knows what's going on there. Leicester have made a good couple of acquisitions in Mendy, and most notably I think Musa, who seems to have Vardy has pace. Vardy's probably one of the fastest players in the Premier League. Musa's faster by the looks of it, and it looks ridiculously threatening. I think first game of the Premier League, Hull City are going to get ripped apart by Leicester. I just cannot see any way that they're going to even threaten Leicester in any way. None whatsoever. I think Leicester are going to come out of this pretty damn comfortably. It could end up like a cricket score. It could end up like a rugby score. I don't know which way it's going to go. I actually think if Leicester can hit the form that they were in last season, 3-4-0 is definitely my prediction for this game. Hull, sorry guys, I think you are at my first prediction to go down this year, and I haven't even done my Premier League Premier League table prediction. You are my first prediction. You're there. You're right there. Prove me wrong. Leicester 3-0. Coming up after that game, 3 o'clock, one of the first, well, we've got a lot of 3 o'clock kickoffs, let's admit. So I'm going to start with the first one that's on my list, which is Burnley at home against Swansea. Now, Swansea look like they've made some hell of acquisitions. Fernando Llorente coming in. If I've got his first name right, I'm pretty sure I have. Llorente coming in for one. They're in for another striker coming in. The only negative they've got is their defensive brick wall, Ashley Williams, going over to Everton. That could be a bit of a detriment to them, especially with Burnley, who've got a pretty good striker on their hands in Gray. Who knows how this one's going to go down? I think it could be pretty tight. I'm looking at the start of the season. It depends who's going to hit it off first, who's going to hit the ground running in the Premier League first. I'm not entirely sure. I am going to have to go for a bit of a sit on the fence on this one. I'm going to have to go for a 1-1 draw. Next up on my list is Crystal Palace versus West Brom. Now, Crystal Palace look in a bit of a strange situation. For me, anyway, it looks like they are subject to a bid of 30 million for Bolasie at this very moment, which is on Wednesday evening. Now, it looks like if they let Bolasie go to Everton, and then it paves the way for them to get Benteke from us, Liverpool, then that's okay, but wouldn't you rather keep... Being Crystal Palace were going to go for Benteke in the first place anyway. Why wouldn't you then keep Bolasie to feed the beast? I don't know. Maybe it's funding issues with the club. I don't know. I don't know the club, how it's run or anything like that. Obviously, then you're coming up against West Brom. Not entirely sure how they're going to be looking at. Will they still have Berahino? Because I think he was subject to a bid from someone. I can't remember who though. Sorry, I don't know. I don't remember. Apologies. Get it in the comments and let me know who it was, because I can't fucking remember right now. But Crystal Palace, if they manage to keep hold of Bolasie and the rest of the players that they've got as well, maybe if that switch does happen and Bolasie goes to Everton, Benteke comes to Palace, Alan Pardew will get the target man that he's always wanted, and Benteke is a very good target man. He hasn't been used as a good target man at Liverpool. It just hasn't happened for him, and it's unfortunate really. I don't want to see Benteke going to Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace are already our bogey team. We got out of there somehow with 10 men, 2-1, and who scored the penalty? Benteke. Enough said. He comes up and he'll pop up with some goals, and I would like to see him stick around, because who the fuck knows is what is going to happen with Daniel Sturridge through the season. We're going to need striker cover. Anyway, enough of that. What do I think the score is going to be? it's another iffy one. West Brom are so difficult sometimes to break down. Other times you can cut through them like a knife through butter. So I'm going to have to go with this one. I think it's going to be a 1-0 victory to Crystal Palace. Coming up next on my list is Everton versus Tottenham, which is going to be a good game. It looks like Everton are fighting to keep hold of Romelu Lukaku, and they're doing very well at it. There hasn't been any grumblings. I know some Man United fans have made some grumblings that he was there when Pogba was doing his signing and reveal for Man United and stuff like that, and that, you know, no one ever just seemed to think, well, I think a couple of them did say maybe it's just his mate. You know, it's just his mate sticking around to get him through the signing. Who knows? They're still young lads. Both of them are young lads. So anyway, they've done very well to keep hold of Lukaku this far. Obviously, there's still a lot of time. There's about another 2 to 3 weeks worth of transfer activity that can happen, but it doesn't look like anything's going to happen before Saturday, at least. And I don't think anything will happen before Saturday. So I think that you'll see Lukaku lining up with Everton, and then with Tottenham, they've got a new striker in there in Janssen, and they've also got Victor Wanyama from Southampton as well. So they've strengthened in some key areas. You've got some backup or a partner, like a credible partner for Harry Kane, and then you've got some defensive midfield steel in there, who's probably going to guarantee you a couple of red cards. Let's be honest, come on, Victor Wanyama is going to get you a couple of red cards in a season, maybe at least one. I'm predicting at least one for him. How do I think that this game's going to go down? It depends. Has Koeman been able to put into his team, into his new Everton team, Ronald Koeman, new Everton manager, has he been able to instill the same sort of playing tactics and also the defensive stability that Everton need? They're going to need way more now that they've brought in Ashley Williams, who, stat for stat, has been better, I think, apart from pass completion than John Stones, who's just gone to Man City for 47.5 million, which is fucking ridiculous, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. They've got Ashley Williams coming in. You've still got Phil Jagielka. You've got some very, very experienced defenders in there. They could become way more organised. How do I see it going down? I see it being a frustrating day for both teams. I see it being a 0-0 at the start of the season, only because I think they'll get the opportunities. I do think that they'll get the opportunities. I don't think either team is going to take them at this stage. Next up on my list for Saturday is Middlesbrough versus Stoke. And Middlesbrough pulled off a very, very good signing in bringing in on loan Alvaro Negredo. He guarantees you goals. He's had experience with Man City. Man City, first half of the season he came over, he was banging goals in left, right and centre. They had a chant for him, calling him Beast. He thought he was getting booed, and they were actually praising him and stuff like that. And I think he clicked on eventually. But Stoke dealing with some pretty bad injuries. That apparently they've got Afellay is out for a long time. You've got Shaqiri is out for a little bit as well. Someone else was out and I can't remember who it was. So they could end up starting with like Jonathan Walters up front. Maybe even Peter Crouch if he's still there. Thing with Peter Crouch is he still scores goals. He still scores goals whenever you put him on the pitch. That's just how it is. That could be how they line up. They might be a bit frail in their team, not having the star players in there. I don't know how fit Bojan is. I'm not entirely sure if he's out either. So how do I see it going down? I think Middlesbrough and the way they did in the Championship last year, I think they could come into this Premier League and they could do very, very similar to how Watford started last season. And I think that they could come in and they could do some damage here against a weakened Stoke team that I'm not sure will have Jack Butland back either yet. I'm not entirely sure on that one. Might know after I've done this video. I should have researched that. Whoops. Yeah, you'll get that. I'll do some research. I'll miss some things though. I see Middlesbrough coming in and at least winning the game. I don't know how much by. I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory though. Am I being harsh? Let me know. Next up on the list is Southampton versus Watford. Watford kicked off the season very well last season and then got rid of their manager. They kicked it off. Admittedly, yes, they didn't have the very best end to the season, didn't have the very best end from January onwards and such like that. But they did very well for someone coming up just from the Championship that season. They'd secured themselves staying in the Premier League quite early on. I don't understand. I would have kept on Flores in my team if I was a Watford fan, but apparently they didn't want him either, so why would he stay? Southampton obviously got a new manager in Puel. I keep thinking his name is Puel. Yeah. fuel for the fire. Fuck it. So Southampton, they've got a new manager. Not entirely sure how they're doing on players. Haven't looked in a while. They haven't got the manager that they did have. They're losing their manager is big, because what Ronald Koeman has managed to do, whenever they've sold players in the past, obviously losing the likes of, well, let's have a look at who they lost. They lost Ricky Lambert, Adam Lallana, Dejan Lovren, Mane in the last couple of seasons, just to name 4. Nathaniel Klein, 5. Most of these players came to us. But you see what I mean? He managed to keep building a team season on season on season, and then they lose Victor Wanyama to Tottenham this year. Is this guy going to be able to build the same? I don't know the manager. I will be honest with you. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen his work previously. I think Watford could come out with a bang in this game and come out with a 2-0 victory. And then the final game on Saturday, the 5:30 kickoff, Manchester City versus Sunderland. Now, what a baptism of fire for David Moyes coming back to the Premier League with Sunderland. And credit to David Moyes, he's managed to keep hold of a couple of his signing. There are a couple of people sniffing around his defender, Kone, or whatever his name is. I think it's Kone, is it? I'm not entirely sure. He's got a defender that everybody seems to be sniffing around anyway. So, could be a baptism of fire for Sunderland. Could be very different though. If you look at how Sunderland finished that season last year and how they were you had Jermaine Defoe on fire. Jermaine Lens was scoring goals and stuff like that as well. Some other players chipping in with goals, and he had them scoring pretty good goals. He was scoring against quite big teams as well. But then you've got to look at Pep Guardiola has to be looking to hit the ground running with Manchester City. The signings that he's made, they cannot fuck about in this window. You take 47.5 million spending on John Stones, which they're saying that now, and this isn't a misquote, this was from Sky Sports, from not only the agent of John Stones, but also the, I think, Tiki, whatever his name is, from Manchester City, one of the directors or whatever, whoever he is, turn around saying, we believe we have signed the very best European defender. And I thought, hang on, fuck off. You've still got the likes of Gerard Piqué, who's well in front of him, Boateng, well in front of him. So what they've probably meant to say, at 22 years old, they've signed the potential best defender in Europe. That's probably what they meant to say. I'm hoping that's what they meant to say. Then obviously they've got the signing of Leroy Sané, who, admittedly, I think I've only played with him on FIFA. I was playing a tournament when they were doing the Ultimate Teams Team of the Year and stuff like that, and I won the Sané card, which was pretty good. It was alright, but it was no replacement for Robin. Young lad, seen it to be in a similar mould to Raheem Sterling, or as a replacement for Raheem Sterling, or as many are saying, maybe a replacement for Navas, which, I don't know, I thought Navas was better than Sterling. I'd put Navas on the other wing and put Leroy Sané on the right wing. I don't know. It's not my team, and I don't care. Anyway, Manchester City versus Sunderland. I think that this game is coming too quick for Sunderland to really bed in there. I just don't know if Moyes is going to have that impact that quick. I really don't know if he's going to have that in his locker. He might. Sunderland were pretty good, and if he's managed to carry that work on from Sam Allardyce, they've got a pretty good chance. But I do think that Manchester City are going to win it. I don't think they're going to be very dominant this early on. I don't think they've looked very good through pre-season from what I've seen. But I think that Manchester City will come out with maybe a comfortable 1-0 victory, but I don't think it'll be much more than that. Moving on to Sunday. Now, I've done a separate video alone for Arsenal versus Liverpool. It's a 10-minute standalone video looking at all sides, all possible sides in detail for the Arsenal versus Liverpool game, which I will be doing for all of the Liverpool game. The remaining match that is on Sunday, it's the 1:30 kickoff, and it is Bournemouth at home to Manchester United. Now, Bournemouth at home to Manchester United, not the home game that you would want on the first day of the season, because when you've obviously just got probably just a week earlier, not even a week earlier, 5 days earlier, something like that, that Manchester United have smashed the transfer world record, not just the English record, the transfer world record. 89 million to rise up to £100 million transfer for Paul Pogba. So obviously when Bournemouth are reading all this sort of stuff, aren't they? They'll just be like, oh yeah, cool, that's not bad. Well, we've got some preparation. We're going to have to deal with Zlatan and Mkhitaryan, possibly, maybe Lingard, I'm not entirely sure. Not sure how they're going to line up that midfield entirely sure. Well, I'm sorry, what? Oh, what? Mate, is that what I think it says? Does that actually say what? What does that say? That Paul Pogba has signed for Manchester United via a Stormzy video? Okay. Anyway, that is really not what you want for your preparations coming into your first game of the Premier League. Now, I don't know what Bournemouth have really done it in terms of signings, but when you have to then turn around and look at what Manchester United team was set up last year, and you look at the team that's going to be set up for this year, chalk and cheese. Chalk and cheese. I'd eat one, I'd draw with the other. It's non-comparable when they will most definitely be starting with Zlatan Ibrahimovic up front. You will most definitely be having Martial, either Mkhitaryan or Jesse Lingard, depending on whether Mourinho wants to give youth a chance. Then you'll have Wayne Rooney in the number 10, or Mata, but I doubt Mata matters at this point. Then you have to contend with who is going to be there. Is it going to be Schneiderlin? Could it be Schweinsteiger? Come out of the grave from Manchester United. Most likely Schneiderlin. Could be Herrera. And then obviously Paul Pogba. Not a lot else needs to be said. The strength from midfield to forwards is fucking ridiculous. And I have no shame in saying they have a scary team on paper. If they put it together, unreal. Unreal. If they manage to put that together and become formidable this season, which they have no excuses now not to do, you go out and you fork out 90 to 100 million pounds on one player, in terms of, and as well as getting Zlatan Ibrahimovic on a free, let's not forget, which I think is the fucking best transfer deal of the summer so far, and that's taking bias completely out of the situation. You bring in someone like Zlatan Ibrahimovic on a free, who has just come off his most, I think, his top score in season, maybe with Paris Saint-Germain, but you get him on a free, fuck's sake. They didn't really pay that much for Mkhitaryan either. Yes, they paid 30 million for a centre-back, but he looks pretty good. You put him next to Chris Smalling, that looks pretty solid. Bye-bye, Phil Jones. Catch you later. See you later. On your way. Go on. Bye-bye. Get out of our first team, you fucker. Man United fans have got to be loving it, because then they've got David De Gea in goal. Who's their backup? Romero. Not too bad if you take away the memories of Gomez sliding a goal in after him last season, opening game of the season, but I'm pretty sure they will have forgotten about that now. Their left-back situation is pretty much sorted. Luke Shaw comes back and he looks like he's doing pretty decent. Right back, I can't remember. I can't remember who their right back is. That's pretty bad. But anyway, you guys all know who it is. Not the game I would want to be coming up against if I was Bournemouth. I wouldn't want to be coming up against it. If it was Manchester Liverpool, I'd be saying, fuck it, we have got to go absolute balls to the wall. And I think Bournemouth have got to do the exact same. This is not a game where they're not going to have the opportunity really to deal with having possession. They're going to have to accept straight away that they're not going to have it. They will not have possession. I know that people will be saying, oh yeah, but Mourinho doesn't pride himself on possession, or he just wants to get the ball up, play as tactical as possible, whatever, blah 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 blah, whatever that even means. I read that somewhere as well. The way that team is built and how world class some of that team actually is, and how potential that could be, Manchester United will most likely be looking at least 60% possession throughout the majority of that game. Bournemouth and Eddie Howe has to use his tactical knowledge to the full to even get possibly a draw out of this game. I just don't see it happening. And I don't like predicting that Manchester United are going to win. But Manchester United, in my opinion, are going to win this game. I think it's going to be pretty comfortable. I don't think Bournemouth are going to have enough in the locker to be able to score against... I don't think they're going to have enough of the ball. I think it's going to be a 2-0 victory to Manchester United. And how could I forget the very first MNF of the season? Chelsea versus West Ham. That's a hell of a game right there. Antonio Conte coming into his first competitive match against Slavan Bilic and his West Ham team at Chelsea. This is going to be a hell of a match, in my opinion. I think it really is. You've got Batshuayi, who will most likely make his debut, in my opinion, but you might start Diego Costa. Who knows? You've got Kante coming in from Leicester, will most likely be starting in that midfield as well. But then you've got West Ham, who are going absolute ham on this transfer window. They got Feghouli on a free. I'm looking at that like thinking, fuck, what a free signing that is. That is unbelievable. Then they come out and just go, Andre Ayew. And I'm like, fucking hell, Andre. So you're going to have Andy Carroll, most likely in the centre forward position. Andre Ayew coming in over here. You've got Feghouli over here. Slavan Bilic makes some very, very smart signings. He really does. He has got an eye for a perfect signing. Just seems to find them and doesn't object to paying the likes of 20 million for an Andre Ayew, who is a very talented player. Just wasn't in the very best team with Swansea at the time. Scary times, because I think West Ham are looking obviously to build on the fact that they brought in. These could be signings that make the same sort of impact as Dimitri Payet. Now, Payet staying at West Ham is huge. Absolutely huge. The performance he put in at the Euros alone put him... His performance at the Euros was higher, way higher than Paul Pogba had. Obviously, Pogba was looking... People were saying, this is his tournament. It has to be his tournament. And it wasn't. Payet comes on, bang, smashes in some goals, plays very well. Whenever he came on, he made that France team electric. Whenever he was playing, they played through him. Everything seemed to happen through Payet, and that's exactly how West Ham play, except now he's got sheer pace and talent on skill on the wings. He's got the big lad up front. You've got Antonio, who will actually be able to move forward with his pace. They've got pace and talent and strength through the team. West Ham could be looking, and again, knocking on that door more seriously than they did last year on the top four. Chelsea look extremely strong though. They haven't made very many changes in terms of defence and stuff like that, but they didn't seem to need to. They just seemed to need to have Conte, I was going to say Kante then, they had Conte come in and basically scream the shit out of all the players, take no bullshit himself. It appears to have worked. When we came up against them in a pre-season game, they were solid as fuck. They were solid as fuck. So hard. So difficult to break down. And he will use John Terry as his new Chiellini. Why not? He looked very good. Reads the game very well. Still, Chelsea are very lucky that he actually didn't walk when Mourinho was there. Very, very lucky indeed. How do I see this game playing out? Very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Especially at home. Chelsea, Stamford Bridge, I would say that Chelsea will have the advantage. However, the sheer talent and work rate and the way that they play West Ham, I'm gonna go for a score draw because I can't choose between the two teams. You guys will have to choose for me. I'm going for a 2-2. I think it's going to be a hellishly entertaining game. 2-2 is how I see it finishing. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I wrong? Am I right? Am I being a dick? Is some of my predictions pretty shit? Let me know in the comments below. After this, most likely on Monday evenings or Tuesday, it'll most likely be Tuesday because I want to include Monday Night Football as well. I'll do the Premier League review and see how the results came in against what I predicted. You can join me on that one as well, and I certainly hope that you do. Join me on this ride that we will have in the Premier League right through to May next season. I'll be making videos every single week about this and then continuing with the gaming videos. But that's all I've got for tonight. If you've liked the video, please like the video. It really helps me out so much. Subscribe and join all of the subscribers that I've got, all 36 of them. Please, join them. We can all have fun together, not in a dodgy way. And subscribe if you're new around here, and I will catch you later.